Hey everybody, this is Fago Franklin III, and I am here with sports analyst Christy Winters Scott. First and foremost, how you doing today?
I am hanging in there. I got a lot done this morning, so I feel pretty accomplished. So that's good, Feel like I'm finally catching up with myself, which is awesome.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
So we're going to just jump right into the questions.
Okay.
So first and foremost, how are you adjusting with the pandemic as well as virtual Zoom interviews?
Hey, you know what? It's become the way of life for me because everything that I do, Will, is generated around sports. So, my three teenagers, they all play sports, basketball. My daughter plays volleyball, and then I coach high school, and I do the broadcasting for men's and women's college basketball and the Mystics and the Wizards. So everything got shut down. So for me, it's been quite a process just to kind of not only encourage my teenagers who are, looking for something to do. I bought an exercise bike, put it all together myself, bought a basket for
Yay!
just to stay active, bought some jump ropes, some bands, and, just to get that adrenaline going and just try to keep them active. But at the same time, trying to keep myself encouraged so that I can encourage others. So that's been kind of how everything has been going the last several months. So it's been quite something. And, while it's been a little difficult, it's also been rewarding because life had been so fast. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of slow down and have conversations with my kids, see how they're feeling. And then, getting in touch with myself as well. I think that's been kind of a hidden treasure in this whole thing.
So what inspired you to become a sports analyst? I was about to say sports journalist, but sports analyst.
Oh, wow. That's a great question, Will, because when I was playing back in the day, Cheryl Miller was in college at USC, University of Southern California. And I was in high school at the time, and she would garner so much national attention. She scored over 100 points in high school. She was like this maniac, and I mean in a great way, maniac in terms of energy and passion on the court when she was playing at USC. And they were in the Final Four back-to-back seasons, so you got to see them on TV. And she played Olympic basketball. So in '84, I believe, when they won the gold medal in LA, I was watching that, and she was just, she changed the way I thought about playing basketball in terms of you can play with passion and have that on the inside, but it's okay to display it on the outside, with your team. And I think for me to see her have more excitement for her teammates when they scored than when she scored, it was such a life lesson for me. It wasn't just a basketball thing. It was like, you're all in it together and you're so invested in the team's success that you're going to work that much harder at what you bring to the table. And I think that really kind of changed me. So Cheryl Miller was actually the color analyst on the game that we played. I played at Maryland. So we were playing at Texas for the Final Four. It was the regional final. We were the last to punch our ticket. All three other teams were already in it. It was La Tech, Auburn, and Tennessee. So we were the nightcap, I believe, like 9 o'clock on ESPN. And here we are. And I look over, we're in the layup line. I look over at the table and, oh my God, it's Cheryl Miller. Done. And they would pass me a ball. I'm like, oh, my bad. I was looking over there, at Olympian and my idol, I just loved her. So for her to be calling the game, I think that inspired me in that moment, which I wasn't really thinking long-term. We're about to play this big game. And, but I think retrospectively, seeing her sitting there motivated me to stay close to the game, number one, but also to share that same kind of passion at the table that I played with, that I displayed as a player. So I think, and she did that as an analyst, as you well know. She was a TNT outside the NBA, but when she was doing college games, it was like she was that same energetic, selfless, passionate player sitting at the table. So I had an issue with an It was loud. Sorry. Hear me. But I think for me, I think that inspired me to get into broadcasting. I think I wrote a paper my sophomore year in high school about what I wanted to do, and that was it. So she definitely inspired me in many ways without me really even knowing it at the time, I think.
What advice can you give people that are in sports media in this weird time right now? I know a lot of people lost their jobs. So what advice could you give them right now?
Well, I think with the Zooms and everything like that, I think that, social media, I think that has been the star during this entire pandemic. I think, when you turn on TV, everyone's in a square. It's like Brady Bunch or something like that. But I think it's been great. And, we didn't lose that. I think had this happened 20 years ago,
Mhm.
that would have been a tough deal. I think with all of the technology now, I think it's so much easier to have a platform, whether
Mhm.
that be with a network or just popping your phone on. And this is what I think about what's going on. And everybody has a voice. Everybody
Mhm.
a part of the media. And so
Mhm.
I think that has really been a gift for especially a lot of the young journalists who are aspiring to be with a network. Maybe they're not there yet, but it's a good chance to get your information, get what you are feeling. You really have to utilize all of the gifts that you're given with the technology that's here. So I think the more the better. So stay active is the advice I would give. Stay active on social media. Stay active in touching bases with people who are in the business and getting in front of people and staying in front of people and not, saying, well, I'm just going to wait until everything cools down. Like maybe it won't, So I think it's just very wise to stay in front of people on social media. I think that's the best thing.
And I know we are going through another weird time and another issue with the Black Lives Matter movement. How can you explain to certain individuals in the field without offending them about, being the only, person of color at certain jobs? How can you explain that to them and make sure that they understand in a positive way so we can kind of move forward in the conversation?
Yeah, that's another great question, Will. And I think, there's been an awakening. It's not just a moment, it's a movement. And I know everyone has been saying that, but I mean, there's been a shift in
Mhm.
acceptability and what people listen to and the subliminal racism that has been going on. And maybe you didn't identify it as that at the time, but now you think back like, that was a little suspect, maybe that was,
Mhm.
and maybe it's just somebody who didn't understand. And, and maybe they'll just say, no, I'm not a racist, but, your comments are subliminal. So I think with
Mhm.
what's been going on, I think the main key is communication. I think you can wear a T-shirt, you can, use hashtags, say her name and everything like that. But I think the bottom line is, what are you doing personally to make that change?
Mhm.
And the only way to do that is to have open lines of communication. This is
Mhm.
how I feel. And it can't be anything that you're afraid to do. Like, this is how I feel, but I'm afraid to say it because they may take it the wrong way. No, this is how I feel.
Mhm.
And I think we have to be more open-minded with what is going on, just in general, as the world showed you with all of the marches. I mean, in Paris, Germany, LA, New York, DC, like it was
Mhm.
incredible. But I think it was a tipping point, and the momentum is there, and that's why you see players like Natasha Cloud sitting out trying to gain this momentum. Renee Montgomery, same thing in the WNBA. So there's this momentum and this platform that our professional athletes are wanting to have. I mean, they're not being, hey, you need to go and talk about this. No, they want to embrace this
Mhm.
moment and they want to use it for the good. And I think the next generation, like I said, I have three teenagers, 18, 16, and 13, boy, girl, boy. And the
Mhm.
dialogue that we have had about everything has been so enlightening to me. And the bold spirited generation that they are living in is incredibly inspiring for me. Incredibly inspiring for me. And I think, they had the marches. There have been many marches. Okay. My friend marches in the 60s. My dad was at the Martin Luther King speech in the 60s, in 63. So, I mean, very much involved in the NAACP. My dad was a Baptist minister for over 50 years, for rest his soul. And my mom is still very active in the church and with the NAACP. So I've seen it. But my first march was this summer. And a couple of them. I did a couple of them. And there was something so empowering about being around like-minded people who weren't just there to say they were there, right? They were there because there is something that needs to be done, instead of just saying, this is enough. Okay, this is enough, but next, right? And I think that's where we are right now with it. We're on to the next step of it. And it has to be something that is mandated in terms of law. And, I think we're going to see some incredible changes because of this generation and because of the bold spirit and how they're inspiring everyone to be more aware of what is being said and done, being more alert. I have 2 boys, and, it's just scary as a parent. And my daughter too. I mean, she's starting to drive and my oldest is driving, and I'm like, I mean, all the advice that you give them, you see everyone doing it properly and still being suffocated. And it's just ridiculous. So it just, you stay in prayer. You hope that, it's not ever going to happen to anyone else. I mean, not just, but to anyone else. It's just the human consciousness that needs to kick in, and the compassion and the love for each other that needs to kick in, and it needs to stay on the forefront. It needs to stay in front of people, and you just teach your kids to do the right thing, and hopefully they run into people who are like-minded in that regard.
With the WNBA coming back, how are you feeling right now with the Mystics? Are you feeling that they could do something and go far deep in the playoffs, or what? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, with the Mystics, obviously, with everything going on with Elena Delle Donne, not sure again if she's going to play it, and that's something that's fluid every moment in the next couple of days, I guess. But with Natasha Cloud not playing, obviously, Latoya Sanders as well, and Chrissy Tolliver going back to LA. I mean, that's a big shift in terms of what they look like on the court. But I think when you look at the sideline and you see Mike Thibault there, the winningest professional coach in women's basketball history, in the WNBA, I just think, he knows how to get it done. And his staff is incredible. I just think that he understands the moment, and on these Zoom calls the last week or so with him and some of the players. And I just think that there is, he always embraces the challenges that every year brings, whether it be injuries, players being out. Tolliver missed a chunk of time last year right before the finals, and like a month came back and to really impact the championship run. And then, the couple games, I believe it was 3 games that Delle Donne missed mid-range in the season there when she broke her nose and was going through all that. He's always been able to find a way. So, with Washington, I just think that, their best basketball may not be at the beginning because they have so many new pieces. But I think is going to be a tremendous leader. Leilani Mitchell is back in DC, and Essence Carson, just her experience with everything, I think has really been a key piece in their practices as of late. And I know Mike Thibault has spoken to that on a couple of the calls here, that her experience and her doggedness on the defensive end, I think has really been a spark for them. And, of course, you have the 2 Ariels, you have Powers and Atkins, who are really just coming into their own with a ton of confidence from winning the championship last year. So, I mean, they have viable pieces to make some noise in the WNBA. And I think what Mike Thibault wants, because of the season being truncated into only 22 games. I think you'll see maybe the first 2 or 3 games, they're going to be getting their chemistry together. And said yesterday that, it's coming along. The chemistry is going. They're getting up and down the floor a little bit. They've put in all their stuff, and now they're rolling, and the rhythm there. So that's going to be fun to watch as well. But I think you'll see that for every team. And I'm not maybe just speaking for the Mystics with that being said, but I think the first couple games you're going to be seeing a lot of new players in new places fit in, and trying to see which team meshes the earliest and the fastest and the most efficiently. So I think with Washington and just the history that Mike Tebow has had here in DC, I think it's to watch that. And, by game 10, I think Washington will probably be doing some damage in the league. So I think it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to see how each team develops over the course of time. And at that midpoint, around 10 games in, let's see what's really going on. And I think the Mystics are going to be right there in the mix. Who's
your 2 teams that you got going to the finals?
Oh, wow. I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know if I mean, that's tough. That's Cambage is out, in Vegas, and then you have a lot of different faces. You have Bonner in Connecticut, Skylar Diggins-Smith in Phoenix, and Angel McCautry now in Vegas. So I don't know. You got to come back to me on that. Choices. So that's tough for me. Shoot, in LA, golly, it's just hard. It's going to be a nice fight down the stretch. I will say that. And whoever is in the finals, I know I'm not giving you the answer you want. But
no. We got time. We can come back to this. We got time.
Visit that with me. But I think down the stretch, I think it's going to come down to the will. I mean, everybody's skilled, from every team. Everybody has the skill, but I think it's going to come down to will. And it's going to come down to, like I said before, just the chemistry piece and which team meshes the fastest, but also down the stretch, that will piece. I mean, strategy is strategy and all that. But when you take the X and O's out of it, what it truly comes down to is the heart and the hustle, and who does that best. And I mean, there are a lot of teams who are saying that they have that and they will be there, which is great. But I like, without saying it, I like to see it. And I think with all the new players being everywhere and pieces missing here and there, I think once we get through a couple of games, I can come back and say, like, these 2 teams look like they've got it. Like, and when I say it, I'm up here and in here, right? So I think that's yet to be seen. So I don't know about answering that right now.
I got you. So I know you were big on faith. How has your faith molded you into the woman that you are today? Majorly.
You're going to get me crying. In a major way. I mean, everyone says, like, how are you doing? And, your initial thing is to say, oh, I'm doing great. Are you? No, I'm not doing great. I'm relying on my faith every day and leaning on the Lord to guide me, not just as a mom, but, as a mentor for our basketball program at South Lakes and, trying to keep these kids motivated in life and not just because of basketball, but we were brought together by the game. So therefore I've been charged to, keep them minded and positive spirited. But and it goes back to what I said about, raising 3 teenagers of my own. And I think it's empowering and inspiring to have that role. But at the same time, it's daunting because you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. So I think my faith has led me every single day going on with what's about to happen. My oldest is getting ready to go off to college. So I'm like, And so it was already going to be one of those milestone situations, but now with all these layers to it, with social injustice going on, and with the COVID, it's just there's so many more layers to the worry. But I think my faith has helped me not to worry as
Mm-hmm.
much. I am an overthinker. I overanalyze a lot, and I'm not saying that is a negative thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of scenarios in my head and I'm running with them. And I'm a night owl. It's hard for me to wind down. But I think when I just hand it over to the Lord, that's when I'm at peace. And that's where I have been able to find my joy, especially now. I mean, it's always been like that, but I think especially now with all of these things going on, I don't know what I would do without my faith, especially now.
So what are the key factors with being successful in the sports media world?
Oh, wow. Being successful in the sports media world, I say number one thing is to do your homework. And when I say do your homework, it's not just look up things online. Okay. Homework is speaking to the coach. Homework is going to the practices. Homework is speaking to the players, watching games and watching the intricacies that each team presents, knowing what kind of philosophy they're looking for on both sides of the ball. For basketball, I mean, this could be for any sport, obviously, but I think, it just looks like you sit down and talk, about the game, and that's not it. That's not it. I mean, you have spotting boards, you have, the communication piece, like I was saying, with the coaches and players and the PR people. I just think they're amazing in terms of their wealth of knowledge and what they share with the media as well. So those are people that you definitely have to get in touch with and have a good relationship with, so that you get that access to the players. So, I mean, I think that would be the best advice there. But, just to never give up. I mean, it's a tough business. And it's tough to, hear no sometimes, and sometimes no, means that you can, some people will give up, right? Like, oh, that's too hard. And I've gotten 10 no's and 0 yeses. And then maybe this isn't for me, or maybe it is, right? So I'm very disciplined and determined in that regard when it comes to fighting for what you want. And like I said earlier, like when you have the social media piece and you have a phone and you have the ability to get things done on your own and do interviews on your phone and post things like that, there's always a way. Like for me, I don't quit. And it's frustrating when people quit or give in, and just try one more time. You know what I mean? Like you're hitting the iceberg with a pick, and maybe it's not going to be the first 10 times, but that 11th time, right? That might do the trick. So I think you just have to stay dedicated to it. It's quite frustrating when it doesn't happen in a microwave manner. Like everything else, like you push send and everything is done on your phone. You put something in the microwave for a minute, popcorn, boom, done. But the life doesn't work that way. So sometimes there's an arduous amount of discipline that you have to present. And to get what you want, you've got to work hard for it. I mean, that's everything, whether you're a journalist or a plumber or a professional athlete, like you can never be stagnant. And when it gets tough, that's when you lean into it. You don't run from it. You lean into it and you continue to fight for what you want.
And my last question is, what can you tell women about staying true to themselves in a male-dominated society?
Oh, another great question, Will. Wow, you like just bringing them out tonight.
Yep.
I would say, do your work. Be there in the moment and go over and above. Don't just do the minimum. Do the maximum. Most of the information that I write down and put in my notes and on my boards and everything, I probably use a third of what I research and ask questions to coaches and players. I probably use a third of what I gather. But I feel better doing it that way than having it be opposite and not have enough information if I need it at some point. So I think you have to overdo it. especially
Mm-hmm.
a woman in a male-dominated business. Have to not there as a TikToker. Like, you are there to get the job done. I think you have to be serious about what you are doing and why you're doing it. It has to be a personal passion. It can't just be because I want to be on TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or there's more to it than that. I don't care if I'm on TV. Like, I love basketball. I had coached high school basketball. I had coached college basketball, whatever like that. I didn't care if the games were on TV. I was in the moment with those kids. And, with coaching high school ball, it's the same thing. Like, our games aren't on. I'm not doing that for recognition or a pat on the back or anything like that. I'm there for those kids, and I want to present them with the opportunity to find out about themselves and learn about their character and stroke that fire, fan that flame that they already have. And I tell them that all the time. Like, I'm not here, to be your best friend. I'm not here to do this and that and the other thing. I'm here to shine a light on what you already have, right? And bring that out. So I think that kind of advice is the same thing I would say to female broadcasters. Like, you have it in you, right? But make sure that you're doing it for the right reason. Make sure that you have your purpose in mind when you are trying to get started. Make sure your purpose is in mind when you hear the no's in a row, right? You have to stay on task, and you have to be true to your heart. And once you do that, everything else is easy. And it can't be somebody telling you, hey, you need to do sports broadcasting. If that's not in your heart to do it, you're not going to be the best at it, right? You have to want to do that and, show that you're passionate about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I mean, I think that's the best advice I can give anyone about anything.
Well, I thank you for joining me on this YouTube channel. I definitely enjoyed the great acknowledgement that you have, as well as the inspiring words. I love what you're doing. I'm a huge fan, and I would love for you to come back on my show.
Absolutely. Hey, check me midway through the WNBA season, and I may have a better answer for you on the finals picks.
Oh, yeah, I got you on my Instagram, so we definitely will keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely have a blessed one.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye. All right.